Today we're in the beautiful place of West Wirral. We're on the banks of the River Dee. Here across the Dee is Flintshire in Wales, and we're in a graveyard. This is the graveyard of St Peter's Church, an ancient parish church at the heart of the village of Heswell in the Wirral. You see this tower here, it's a 14th century tower and beautiful location. This is Old England, Old Britain. What a wonderful place. So today we're going to talk about saving our nation. This is what our theme is on our channel. If you can, will you subscribe to our channel, press the button, and if you're able, make a contribution so we can carry on making these films. Thank you. So we've had the decision. Boris Johnson this afternoon is going to be anointed as the Prime Minister of England, and it's a new beginning for our nation. I mean, it's good riddance to Theresa May. Nobody will miss her. What a catastrophe that woman was. Not only did she fail to win us Brexit, but she appointed as Home Secretary Sajid Javid. And he looks like he's going to remain a key player in Boris Johnson's cabinet. Now, Sajid Javid has just spoken about confronting extremism in Britain. And I want to confront the ideas that he presented. The first idea he presented was that Britain is now a brilliantly diverse society. Isn't it wonderful that we're a hodgepodge now of different cultures, different races, different faiths, and the old England, the traditional England, which was, you know, Christian and English and very steady over the years, a great deal of continuity from the past. I mean, we're looking here, we're in St Peter's in Heswell today. There's the old church tower there. That's from the 13th century. This 800 years of English continuity. Sajid Javid was celebrating the fact it's been pushed into touch, and we're now this great multicultural melting pot. How great is that? And he said, what we need to do now in this melting pot is to ditch all the labels. It's the labels that are causing the problems, you know. Some people are Muslims, some people are Anglicans, some people are Hindus, and this dreaded anti-Semitism. If we just drop the labels, we could all converge together and become a happy-go-lucky society. But of course, he's completely denying reality. This is the problem. First of all, the English have not been enriched through multiculturalism. We have been dispossessed. This was our land, this was our island, this was our home, and the intruders have come in and pushed us to one side. In fact, as Sajid Javid spoke, you begin to realise the English have been marginalised in their own country. We're now almost second-rate citizens. Sajid Javid was very keen to confront Islamophobia, the criticism of Islam. He was very keen to confront anti-Semitism, the criticism of Judaism or the Jews. But he never mentioned Christianity. Christianity now seems to have very little status in this country. There's no such thing as Christophobia. Christians have just got to take it, you know. Just as there's no such thing as Anglophobia. I mean, you can be phobic about anything to do with minorities, but you're allowed to put the boot into the English at every opportunity. That's not extremism. When you attack the English, it's a sign of emancipation. It's a sign of release. But what is this Islam that's come to share our island with us? It's a supremacist faith. It believes that Islam is the way and the only way. It's intolerant of any other faith. I mean, we're seeing this burnings of churches in France. But in Islamic countries, churches are destroyed at will, constantly. Christians are driven underground and harassed. They despise the cross and everything the cross represents. So we've got a real problem here, because Islam is a very domineering religion. It demands to be taken as the top dog, and it thinks its code of law, Sharia law, is the only one that's applicable to human society, whether it be in Britain or it be in Pakistan. Of course, Sajid Javid, his family came from Pakistan, and he often talks about his mother. She couldn't speak English, and he's going to provide big government funds to encourage the Pakistanis to speak English. Isn't that great? Another form of enrichment. We can all pay our taxes and it will help the Pakistanis speak English. Such a wonderful blessing, this multiculturalism. You know, we give them our money, we give them our land, we give them our cities, and we give them our political power. And Sajid Javid says, the Muslims haven't come to take over, and he's speaking as Home Secretary, the man in a position of dominance. The guy in London, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, he keeps saying Muslims have not come to take over, and yet he's taken over London and imposing an Islamic agenda on London. And we're seeing this in city after city. Muslims are acquiring political power. Not only are they acquiring political power, they're using their block vote to make sure their party gets elected, the Labour Party. So, I mean, Sajid Javid, it's wonderful the way he just twists it all around, spins it, a bit of spin on it, says, it's we, the English, who are responsible for causing division. If we just accepted multiculturalism, as Diane Abbott said, it's the white people who are the problem in this society. If we just accepted being dispossessed and replaced, everything would be fine. They want us to surrender. I mean, all this thing, when Sajid Javid talks about countering extremism, what he's really talking about is stopping any resistance to the destruction of England. Anyone who rises up and says, we were quite happy being English, we were quite happy being part of our traditional society, they are now the extremists. We're not allowed to conserve what is ours and what has been given us as an inheritance from the past, from centuries and centuries. Now, are we going to pass this inheritance onto our children? Because it seems like our children don't count. Their future is of no interest to Sajid Javid. He's concerned that Pakistani children are facing racism and Islamophobia. Muslims are facing Islamophobia. Attacks on the English don't concern him. There's no such thing as Anglophobia, I've already said it. Now, Sajid Javid has said the way we overcome the division in society is we integrate. We all come together and weave together. This is the big globalist agenda, weaving together of the nations. So he went back to his hometown of Rochdale to see how the weaving was actually happening in practice. And he found in one school there was 95% of the pupils were Pakistani Muslims. And just a mile down the road in another school, 90% of the pupils were English Christians. And he said, this should not be. They should be integrated together. And he's talking about producing government policies to bring the children together so we can all mesh together as one big happy family. Now, I've heard this for 40 years. As soon as the Muslim population began to take over areas of Britain, they self-segregated. It wasn't imposed upon them. It's part of their religion to separate themselves from the kuffar, the unbeliever. It's part of their religion to maintain a closed Islamic culture. So when there was English kids in their schools, their parents took them out because they were bullied and they were harassed and they were made second class in the school. The school had an Islamic ethos developed in the school, and the English kids fled. Now, the education authorities tried to stop this. They accused the English kids, the English parents, of being racist for pulling them out of these Islamic schools, but they were driven out. They were driven out of these schools. This is the segregation that takes place in society. Islam does not believe in integration. I mean, it's utterly unheard of for a Muslim girl to marry a Christian man. They don't like that. They will not allow it. They believe in arranged marriages. They believe in marriages under Sharia law. So this myth that we're all going to come together as one society is a complete and total lie. Now, Sajid Javid went on and said, look, we've got to have an honest and open debate about what's happening in Britain, how it's being transformed as a society through mass immigration, which he regards only in a positive light. But then, as soon as we start debating, he started to condemn the English for having vile views of wanting to exclude other cultures. No, we just want to survive. We just want to remain sovereign in our island. It's our island. It's our home. It belongs to us. That's not a vile view. That's a historic reality. And if we don't assert it, it will be taken off us. And it is being taken off us. Not just by the Labour Party under Blair, but by the Tory Party under Theresa May. And I'm afraid by the Tory Party under Boris Johnson. He describes himself as a progressive. Now, how is Sajid Javid going to tackle the vile views of the English? Well, the first thing he said was that they've got to be excluded from the media and broadcasting. Dissenting views which challenge multiculturalism cannot be broadcast in Britain. But he went even further and he said the police have got a role in punishing dissenters. Anyone who asserts English sovereignty or English rights should be punished by the police. It should be a criminal offence to assert Englishness in England. All of it is about shutting down dissenting ideas. He said it's the duty of politicians to close off the political realm from dissenting ideas. It's scary. It's all presented to us as something nice, the coming together of different groups in a multicultural society, but what it actually means is we're doomed. If we don't assert ourselves, we are doomed. And, Sajid Javid presented himself as someone who was enlightened. He said he was going to expose all the myths. One of the main myths is that the numbers, that we're not being overwhelmed in Britain, that the numbers are much lower than people realise. He said school children said that they thought 50% of the nation was ethnic. He said it's only 13%. Now, what we've seen since the 1960s, in 1971 there was just 80,000 Muslims in Britain. Today there's over 4 million. We've seen an explosion of their population. When these kids say they think that half the country is ethnic, these are urban children at school, and they've seen this. They're relating to their own environment. In urban areas, the ethnic population rises to over 30%. Amongst under 15s, it rises to over 50%. This is the future. So when kids say, oh, we're 50% ethnic, they're responding to the reality they see. It's no myth at all. This is about our replacement. Another population's being brought in. Now, how many immigrants have come in since 1997 when Tony Blair effectively did away with border control? 10 million. 10 million have come in. City after city, London, Birmingham, Manchester. They've been totally and utterly transformed. They're now third world cities. You go to London, it doesn't feel like an English city anymore. People commentate when they come from abroad. They say, what's happened to London? The English have gone. But this is no problem to Sajid Javid. He celebrates this. He said, let's celebrate the transformation of Britain. As an Englishman, what have I got to celebrate? That not only am I seeing the dispossession of my people and my country, but my children will have nothing to look forward to except being marginalised and subjugated by an Islamic majority, because that ultimately is their agenda, to turn Britain into an Islamic republic. Now, is immigration really that beneficial to Britain? Why are 80% of immigrants on benefits? Why is there a huge black economy of people working below the minimum wage, immigrants undermining the British? Why have we seen this explosion in crime? Knife crime in London. We've seen Albanians bringing in cocaine, Pakistanis bringing in heroin. Africans on the streets of London are marketing these drugs and they're stabbing each other in the process. It's not good. And we haven't even come on to the issue, which Sajid Javid never mentioned, grooming gangs. The grooming, raping, drugging and prostitution of hundreds of thousands of English children by Pakistani Muslims. Are we to celebrate that as well, Sajid Javid? Is it vile to bring that to people's attention? Something rotten. There is something rotten in the state of England. And we've got to wake up, English people. We've got to wake up and assert ourselves. The Tory party is not a party of the English people anymore. We need to assert that this is our nation and we need to take political control. We've got to rise to the challenge.